Hi, everybody. Welcome back to She Can STEMPIRE. This is a short series where I sit down with powerful women in STEM and leadership to share real stories behind their success. I'm your host, Jenny, a scientist, STEM advocate, and delegate for Miss US International. And this series is part of my mission to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals 17 by building partnerships that empower women and create lasting impact with science in our community. Today, I'm joined by Marie from Lab Skills Academy. She is a scientist and content creator who has built a massive following of over 160,000 followers by making lab skills informative and approachable. I've been a follower since 2023, and her content has inspired me to push me out of my own comfort zone and start sharing my lab life online. So today we'll be talking about her STEM journey, the story behind Lab Skills Academy, and how she's using social media to educate the next generation of scientists. So let's get into it. All right, Marie, can you share with us your journey into STEM, and please include your background and your upbringing?
Yeah, first of all I want to say is thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. Like hearing you say that, I just like, I just get excited. Thank you for following me since 2023. I really appreciate it. So yeah, my background is I went to undergrad as a pre-med student. I thought I was gonna go to med school like everyone else who doesn't end up in med school. And so halfway through like that time, I was like, okay, I'm not happy. I don't want to be here. I can't see myself doing this for the next 10 years. So what's next for me? And so I went and I told my parents, cried my eyes out as we all do, I don't know. And then my dad was like, okay, so like, time to think about what you want to do next. And so I started researching and looking around and like with a biology degree, what you can do. I checked that there's like virology, there's like molecular biology, all these things. And then I stumbled upon regenerative medicine. And from there, I'm like, wait, they could do what? With stem cells? Wait, what? And so I was like, okay, that's something like I want to do. I want to be a part of that world. And after finding that, I sort of backtracked to what kind of degree do I need to be able to do that kind of work. And that's where biotech came to play. And I was like, okay, so I could just go get a biotech master's degree after my undergrad in biology and just be able to do so. And so I searched for universities who offer that master's, and one of them was Northeastern University. And yeah, that's how I started.
That's awesome to hear. So I wanted to ask, when did you realize you wanted to stop being in medical school or stop applying to medical school and start transitioning to biotech? Were you like a third year, a fourth year? And when you decided that you wanted to go into biotech, what pivot did you have to do to get your master's program?
Yeah, so I realized maybe first semester, second year of of my undergrad that I was like, I don't want to do this. The main reason is just because I felt like my personality did not align with not what it takes, but like all the grindset mindset of burying your head into books and just studying. My personality is not like that. I love to go out, I love to talk to people, be a butterfly, and I don't think I'm organized enough to do everything at once. And so I'm like, I want to make an impact, but in a different way. And so biotech was that way. I scheduled for the MCAT, I paid for it, but I never studied or showed up. That's how like I was like, never, because my mom would be like, why didn't you still buy the books for the MCAT? I'm like, yeah, the fact that I didn't rush to go and study for the MCAT, I knew like deep down that it wasn't for me. And so if you don't have the stamina or the excitement to wanting to do something, then that's like your gut feeling that's telling you that's not for you.
So when you realized you wanted to go into biotech, what pivots did you have to do? Because I was in the exact same shoes as you. I was pre-farm, and by my third year, I realized I didn't want to do that anymore. So I had to start preparing to take the GRE so that I could go to my master's programs. When did you realize that you wanted to go into biotech? So you answered that. And steps did you take to pivot?
Yeah, so I realized after I graduated with my undergrad degree, I'm like, okay, now what? I don't know what to do. And so I did take a semester off after graduating with my undergrad. And during that semester off, I figured out like the biotech route. I had to do my master's and then I had to take my GRE. Unfortunately, turns out Northeastern, you don't need a GRE. I don't know if it's still the case, but back then when I was applying, they're like, yeah, you don't need a GRE. I'm like, I went through all this trouble to study and do all this work and then I don't need a GRE. This is just crazy. But yeah, so the only pivot I had to do was just do the GRE, which wasn't required apparently,
Oh,
and then
that's
apply to
interesting.
Northeastern. Yeah.
So you didn't need like research during undergrad for your application?
No, I didn't have any research.
Wow.
What I did is I leveraged the lab courses that I had in undergrad to be able to sort of put it on my resume. But one
Mm-hmm.
thing I did during that semester off, I did volunteer at like a research center at a hospital. What they do is they freeze down the mesenchymal stem cells from the umbilical cords of babies. And the only reason why I did that is because I wanted to see if working with stem cells or working with regenerative medicine is something I wanted to do. And by
Mm-hmm.
the time I applied, I didn't even have that on my resume because like I wasn't still done yet. And so I just applied to Northeastern or what I did in my undergrad. But the only reason why I like volunteered there is for my own purpose, for me to be like, okay, I don't know if this is something I want to do or not.
I see. I'm sure there must have been moments of like self-doubt because for me, I had tons of imposter syndrome when I was applying because even though I was in a lab, I felt like I wasn't really making that big of a contribution. So it was hard for me to write about it in my application for my master's program. So did you have feelings of self-doubt and imposter syndrome when you were applying to your graduate schools?
For sure. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get accepted or not. I don't have any credentials. I have nothing.
Uh-huh.
I like applied to Northeastern. I think that night was the deadline to the last day you could apply to like Northeastern programs. And
Mhm.
I just stumbled upon Northeast. It's just like I was Googling like, okay, biotech masters, and then Northeastern popped up. I'm like, okay, this is where I'm applying. And I was like just writing the essays just to write so I can have something. I was just like praying that they would accept me. I really felt like during that time, like I'm like, okay, well, what if no university like accepts me? Like, what do I do now? But everything happens for a reason, and I got accepted into Northeastern.
Can I ask how many programs did you apply to?
I think I applied to 4 or 5 different programs. They were all under the molecular biotechnology. And so the thing is, I was applying for the spring semester. And so most of the universities were like, yeah, sorry, we don't accept spring semester people. But other universities that they're like, yeah, sorry, your credentials are not enough for us. And so that's why I'm like, Northeastern, please, I need you. And then it worked out.
That's so funny. You're saying like Northeastern. I went to Western
Uh,
University, and Western was the only graduate program I applied for. I went to the college campus when they were doing like an open house, and the application closed within 3 weeks of me meeting everyone. So I just full sended everything, wrote everything up just like you, last minute sent it, and then I got accepted. So it's really crazy how like when things are meant for you, the path will like naturally just open up.
exactly, exactly.
Let's go back a little bit. I want to ask what inspired you to pursue science and if there was a moment that you realized you were meant to be in STEM.
Yeah, I feel like in biology class, it just like came to me so easily.
Mm,
I would sit there, answer questions, barely study, but still get really good high grades. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's something there for me. And also, my dad is a doctor, so I feel like growing up in a household that way, it really influences you as a child growing up. With that, and seeing how biology was so easy for me, I'm like, okay, I guess what I want to do. But back in the day, the only two options you had were either being a physician or being a biology teacher in high school. There was
right.
no other option. No one ever taught you of like there's more to than just doing that. And for me,
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'm good at biology, be a physician. That's it, nothing else until I figured out biotechnology.
I had the exact same realization when I said I wanted to go into STEM. Everyone around me said to go to medical school, pharmacy school, nursing school. And I was like, I do want to make an impact, but not in that way. So I didn't even know about biotech until I was the third year in my undergrad. So it's
Exactly.
crazy how there's so many opportunities out there, especially for women, but in high school, it's hard to see at the time.
Because
So
they don't.
this leads me to what challenges have you faced as a woman in the STEM field, if any?
I feel like I've been very fortunate not to have any big discrimination, if you want.
Hmm.
to say, but I did have this one person in my high school that I still think about till this day, even though I shouldn't give that energy. But there's this guy in my high school, he was like, he wanted to be the physician of like, your graduate school, and he studies like 24 hours a day and all that stuff. And like, he was like the number one in our class. And I would walk in, like, cause like chaos in class and then go do an exam and get like a 90. And he would get like a 95, but get so pissed off how like I still got a 90 when I'm not as focused as he is.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the same undergrad and we walked into the biochemistry course. And like in undergrad, you need to pass every class to get to the biochemistry class. And if you don't
Right.
pass them with a minimum of a B or a C, you can't go into biochemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like one of those last classes that you needed to graduate. And so it's a big deal if you go to biochemistry at the same time, because you could be late for a class or early, or you have to repeat the class. But we were there with like the graduating class all together. And I walked into that class and I bumped into him because he didn't know I was there. And he was like, "Oh, so you made it to this class?" I'm like, "Excuse me, sir. First of all, I don't have to study as much as you do to be in this class.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I'm as smart and as good as you are. So, like, why in the world would you think I would never make it?" That's to say, like, you will have these people in your life. People will say things, will throw a word or two, or be like, "You have time to do this and that." And, like, honestly, the kind of person I am, I'm like, I really don't care. Whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
say, I don't really care. It's not that deep, bro. You do you, I'll do me. Just everyone in their own space. The less you care about what people think, and the more you care about how you show up personally and the goals that you set for yourself, whether that goal is to pass that class the first time or class to pass the second time, it doesn't really matter. So that's just one little discrimination that I have, I guess.
That reminds me of my own story. I don't know if you watched my first episode, but I talk about my own journey. I actually was really bad at math, so I started in remedial math because I failed my math placement exam. And I had my 4-year schedule for a biochemistry degree on my desk, just taped to the front so I could see it and know what classes I was going to take. My roommate had friends that would come in, and one guy, I don't even remember who he was, but he looked at my schedule and he was like, "I'm gonna bet you $5 that she's gonna switch out of her major." They just didn't think that I was gonna make it in STEM, which is crazy because I don't even know who they are, but they just saw my schedule and they're like, "She's not gonna make it."
That's crazy.
So
But now you're here. You
yes,
made
but we're here. So, and I think this leads really good into my next question is, was there any specific moment or mentor that helped push you when things got difficult for you?
I feel like the biggest mentors in my life, even till this day, are my parents. Having like parents who support you even when you're doing big pivots in your life
Hmm.
is really, really, really important. And I know there's a lot of people out there, especially international students, who they're like, "Oh, if I'm not a physician, my parents like don't think it's a right career for me." And so I was very fortunate to have my dad, who would be like, "If you put your mind to whatever it is, you'll be the number one, you will be successful, you will be doing this." And my mom also telling me, "It doesn't matter if you're a woman or whatever, you walk into that room and you make sure everyone knows who you are." And so having parents like that really shaped me to who I am today. So I owe it to them. But I feel like I've never really was the kind of person to go seek out a mentor, even though now thinking about it, like I should have. But now I'm at the stage in my life where I am seeking out mentors, and I am looking at mentors because like I don't know what I'm doing and I need help to sort of be like, okay, like now what? And
Hmm.
so yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
When you say seeking mentors, is it mainly for your Lab Skills Academy page or is it more for your career?
It's more for my personal growth, a personal career. Being in like industry, your eyes open up to so many different things and so many things you're like interested to work at and so or work in. So that makes me like I want to do a lot of things at once. So that's where I'm like, okay, I need to take a step back and see with the skill sets that I have, what can I do or where can I go. Yes, I know a couple of things of like the industry, but there are so much out there that I still don't know and I'm learning personally. And once I learn, I sort of communicate it on social media. Having people who have been in the industry for 20 years, 30 years, and you're just telling them like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. having that insight is really important to help me take my next steps in my career.
Yeah, it's always amazing to find mentors that will help you, especially advance in your career. I want to take this time to now pivot into your Lab Skills Academy page. And I'm so fascinated by everything you do. Just balancing that 9 to 5 work schedule and still posting consistently is so inspiring for me. And I wanted to ask if there was a moment when you realized that you wanted to share your STEM knowledge and educate people and others online.
Yeah, so the reason why I started this page is because I was in the position, like as I was saying at the beginning, like I didn't know about biotech. I didn't know about what's beyond med school, what's beyond if I decided not to go into med school, what's beyond that. And because I didn't have the right resources or tools, I did stumble my way into biotech and getting my first internship and getting my first job. But the what really opened my eyes is when I got that first full-time job. I'm like, this is not what I was taught in school at all. Like at no point did anyone tell me this is what it's gonna be like or this is
Mm,
how it's gonna look like. And I'm like, if I'm struggling with trying to figure things out, I'm sure at least one person out there might be struggling as well. And if I could be that person to help them out and be like, hey, like this is what you do, even if it's for one person, so be it. And so that's why I was like, okay, let me start sharing that side of my life and like the struggles that come with STEM and all that stuff to be able to help people understand like, hey, there's this thing called biotech. It's interesting, it's amazing. You don't have to be a doctor to be successful.
definitely. Yes. How do you know what kind of content to post? And when you say it was what you were not expecting, can you share some of those things where you thought it was one way in school, for instance, but it actually wasn't like that?
Yeah, the inspo to posting is what I literally go through on day-to-day life. I would be in the lab and something happens to me or we talk about something with my coworker and my head would ding like ding, it's a great concept for a video and I would just put it together as a video and then post it. So
Mm.
like everything I post is from things like I go through or I've related to or the jokes we make in the lab that I'm at or the conversations I've had with coworkers. And so that's sort of how my inspo goes, how I post. And that's why I don't have like a posting schedule. It's mainly like, okay, today I walk into work and this happened. And then I'm like, okay, I need to shoot it, like put it together and then post about it. And so I'm like a day of kind of person. I don't recommend. Some things that I realize is like how to build your resume. Like
Hmm.
I did not know how to build a resume, even though like in school they teach you, but it wasn't enough. And so through trial and error, I had to learn how to do it. And then I did my workshop for how to build your resume. And so many people, which like brings me so much joy. And that's why the reason that I started that took that workshop, they're like, oh, I got a job. I had a person who's like, I got a job at Moderna. I got a job at like Pfizer. I got a job at a biotech startup, all because of like how I positioned myself and looked better than the other people that like just positioned myself in industry. So those are things like I didn't know how and I'm so glad that I learned so I could share that information with everyone.
Yeah, that's so incredible because I would have these ideas and then I guess it's like in the back burner and I don't really go and post it right now, but to see you just posting consistently and showing up is very inspiring to me.
Don't overthink it. Don't over
Yeah, definitely. I need to stop overthinking.
That's why I don't plan ahead because it's if you plan ahead, you're overthinking and you're overworking and you're doing this and you're doing that. On the spot when you're like, for me, I work so well and like high pressure. If I'm pressured, like I put a deadline, like you need to post one video a day. So I'm like, okay, I'm pressured. I have to figure out something to post a day. That's how I normally do it.
What is something that people might not realize about running an educational platform like yours on social media?
Back when I had less followers, I was able to answer to every single DM.
Hmm.
And I felt responsible to answer to every single DM. But now with how many DMs I get a day and with like the extra workload that I have, like as you grow in your career, you have more workloads. And as I grow in also my content creation side, there's also more workload. I don't have that flexibility to be able to go on the DMs and like answer every single person. And I do feel guilty about it. But sometimes like the messages of people, they're like, you never answer. But I'm like, I'm trying. It's
Yeah.
very hard. It's very hard to keep up. And also, Instagram has this like hidden DM feature that I don't see half of the DMs. Like, if you like, I would like scroll up to my insights for my story, and
Hmm.
they would be like, "Oh yeah, you have 40 replies," and I've only seen two. And
Oh,
even if I
wow.
go to the hidden, I can't see any. So there's like also a glitch in the system. So that's like something where even when people ask me like, "What degree should I do?" I'm like, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I
Yeah.
just give you the tools and inspiration on like to lead you, like to nudge you in what way you want to go, but I can't make that decision for you.
Right.
So that's mostly the number one question I get is like, what degree should I get? I'm like, I give you inspiration, but you should know
Like,
what you want to do. And
right.
it's fine if you don't know and you pick one thing and then later on you're like, actually this is not what I want. It's okay. It's fine, but just pick something and go on that path.
Yes. Yeah. Just don't overthink, as you said. Just do it.
Exactly. That's how I live my life. I don't know if it's good advice, but
I mean, it's gotten you to where you are today, right?
that's true. That's true.
I think you touched on this a little bit, but what has been one of the most meaningful messages you've received from your audience?
I always like when people say you're an inspiration. I'm like, I get a little bit of imposter syndrome when people say that. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. I just post videos. But I like people just that come up to me, like that send messages and they're like, "Oh, you're such an inspiration. You're the reason why." I had someone the other day be like, "You're the reason why I passed my exams because like I see my future." And I'm like, this is like that's so thought like I like speechless. As you could tell, I
Yeah.
have no words to say. So I'm like so speechless and like I'm like I take screenshots and I just like it just reminds me and it keeps me going on like sometimes there are days where I just don't want to post or I don't
Hmm.
have the energy to post or with everything going on in my life. But then seeing these messages remind me like, hey, no, you have to show up. You have to keep posting because you if you can help at least one person, then that's it.
Yes. Wow.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. What advice would you have for young women who feel intimidated by lab work or they don't see themselves in STEM?
Good question. I think don't rule out the idea of STEM unless you've tried it and you've had your hands dirty for a while. I'm not saying go into the lab for 2, 3 months and be like, okay, that's it. That's not for me.
Mhm.
My advice is get as many internships as you can. Be in the mindset that you are going to get rejected. Don't be in the mindset like, la, 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 everything is going to work out my way. Be in the mindset that you are going to get rejected. People are going to tell you you don't have enough experience, and that's fine. And that's okay. That's the obvious. If you're starting out in your career, that's the obvious. But what makes you different from everyone else is one, you're already in the mindset of rejection. So you're like, I'm gonna keep fighting. I don't really care if they said no to me or not. Second, the fact that you keep on going and keep on going and keep on going until someone says yes to you, that's what makes you different. So if you keep on going and keep on fighting, someone will say yes to you, and that will give you the break that you need. And so those breaks, the different internships or the different experiences or the hands-on experiences will really help you know what you want. For example, me, I I didn't know that cell therapy was a thing. I jumped into cell therapy, loved it, worked on different cell lines, but then I'm like, because I worked on different cell lines, I'm like, I want to work on X cell line. And so I looked for a job with X cell line. And now
Hmm.
I'm working at that. So being exposed to these things will help you further understand what you want and what you're going to be happy about showing up every day to work on.
I love it. So inspiring. I wanted to end off here on what's next for you and Lab Skills Academy and what are you most excited about right now?
As I say, I live every day one step at a time. What's next for me is career wise. I'm trying to grow career wise. I'm trying to learn different things, trying to see with all the skill sets that I have where I would fit in the biotech world. It's a learning progress, but we'll get there soon. For Lab Skills Academy, I launched my podcast, which is called When in STEM. It's a play on When in Rome, just to bring people from all over the STEM world, to teach people like you're gonna start in one place and then end up somewhere completely different, and it's okay. Like you might start off thinking like, I want to do a PhD, blah blah blah, X, Y, and Z, and then as you go along your journey, you're gonna realize like, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. Like this is what I want to pivot to. And so that's the whole point about When in STEM is to bring people from all over STEM that have untraditional career paths or have the traditional career paths, but what they've done to give people tools and resources so they understand like, hey, it's not a one size fits all. So that's what I'm super excited about. Other things, I'm at a phase where people just tell me like post whatever you want to post. So that's where I'm going to be. I'm going to post whatever that day I feel like posting. So maybe more glimpses of things outside of the lab or in the lab. And also I'm getting married this year. So maybe glimpses of that as well. So a lot of things. So I don't know.
Ah, congratulations on your engagement.
Thank
I
you.
saw that. It was so beautiful, the pictures and everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Marie for sharing her journey, her mission, and the impactful work she's doing at Lab Skills Academy. If this episode inspired you, please make sure to follow along with the She Can STEMPIRE series as we continue spotlighting women who are breaking barriers in science and leadership. You can find clips on Instagram and watch the full episodes on YouTube. I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.